the cloud. Okay. All right, so good afternoon again. I've started recording this section. By way of introduction, my name is Wale Omolere. I am the host of this particular pre-course training. Just a little bit about myself. I am the CEO and also the founder of Smart Learning. So Smart Learning is the training arm of our organization. We have the consulting arm, and we also have the training arm. So Smart Learning is that place where we train people on different courses in cybersecurity, in cloud, also cloud-related courses, in IoT-related courses, as you can see it, and anything related to data analytic. We do a whole lot around governance, risk, and compliance as well for those that are non-technical. So we have suites of different courses, all right? So whatever background that you have come from, whether you're technical, whether you're non-technical, whatever course that you have read in university, even though if you haven't been to university, and you want to upskill, then, Smart Learning is the place, all right? So we've been doing this business of training people in the last 7 years, okay? We have helped, hundreds of people, to change their career or to have a rewarding career in cybersecurity, in cloud, and also in governance, risk, and compliance as well. Some of you, IoT might be new to you. Maybe some, you already know what IoT is. But what is interesting today is Dr. Mike is going to be showing us the relationship between IoT and data analytic, all right? So they are like hand in glove. And you'll also be showing us, the diverse opportunity that lies within, okay? So, but do not be afraid. It doesn't really matter if you know what this is all about before now, or you don't even have a clue at all. That is why we're organizing this section, so that you can see, the career opportunity that is in this space. Okay, so brace up, listen attentively, ask questions as much as you can, and we will try to answer your question. Where we're not able to provide the right answer now, we'll definitely come back to you, with the right answers, hopefully. So again, Wale Omolere. I am the lead consultant, or the, whatever you want to call me, the founder of Smart Learning. We're going to be starting shortly. I would flip the control to my colleague, Mike, but I will quickly want to introduce Mike to you guys. So Mike is a data science and IoT security consultant. With over 14 years work experience. He developed a big data strategy framework that helps organization identify the potential value of big data. So someone was asking me earlier, and I think it was Shola. Shola wanted to know the relationship between IoT and data. And that's a very good question. Mike is going to be helping out. In fact, this presentation today is beyond what I'm asking to do, because it's loaded with the information. In fact, you will leave here armed with good information that would help you in making decision for your career. So Mike has come from that background because he has helped organizations to develop strategy. Framework that help them, to be able to harness the value of data, of big data projects. He has expertise in Internet of Things, operational technology, security. Some of you must have heard, maybe you have heard something they call OT data, all right? And that's where the word is moving to now, all right? So when you think about machine and how machine generate data and what those data are used for, all right? Mike is the person because he's really knowledgeable in this area. He's not only knowledgeable about OT data, he's also very skilled when it comes to protecting operational data, which is the security aspect of it. He's very knowledgeable around machine learning. It knows a whole lot around artificial intelligence, data visualization, all right, information technology security, and also security architecture, modeling. He's not, so because he's a doctor, so he's not just a doctor of letters, so he's not going to be teaching us, the emphasis is not going to be on the theory, because Mike is also practical as well. Everything that he's going to be telling us today is just because he has done it for organization. So the benefit that Mike would bring is the fact that he can combine academic knowledge with practical hands-on experience as well. So you're really in for a good show today. And if you make the decision, after this pre-course that you want to be trained on data analytic, using Tableau and Power BI, then smart learning is the place for you. And Dr. Mike is the lead consultant in this particular area for us. So I know Dr. Mike is ready. Dr. Mike, are you ready to?
Yes, I am.
All right, great, fantastic. So you have the control now. You can start sharing. The recording is on. Just let's keep mute, so that we can have a nice, clean recording. And I would come back, at the end of this section, to tell you more about the program. All right. Thank you. And yeah, enjoy your time.
Thank you very much, Wally. Hi, everyone. Let's just jump right into it. So, just to give you a heads up on, I believe everyone can hear me clearly.
Sure, I can hear you.
All right, great, great. So, just to give you some kind of structure of how the agenda for what we're going to be covering today, we'll look at what data is. We'll look at, this catchphrase, data the new oil. What does that all mean? We'll talk about sources of data. And then I'm sure some of you may have already heard about Industry 4.0. I'm sure you may be surprised because there's now even Industry 5.0, but what does that mean? We'll talk about that. We'll talk again about Internet of Things, like Wally has already mentioned. We'll talk about data analytics and AI and how all of this link. All right. We'll talk about data visualization, future trends, and skill shortage. All right. This is really critical because you want to begin to position yourself. You want to be able to see yourself and say, okay, in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, what do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? All right. Where would I be valuable? How can I position myself to earn well, to get paid much better than what I'm earning now? How can I bring value either to the organization I'm working for currently, or if you're aspiring to work somewhere else? Okay, what kind of skills can I have? How can I package myself properly so that I can now target some of those roles? Now we'll talk about that, and then we're also giving a bonus. So aside from the data visualization and the IoT, we also are giving a bonus at the end, and we'll talk about that when we get to the end, what you get. So there's this whole package. Now, I remember a couple of years back when I was consulting for one of the oil and gas companies abroad, and um, I noticed there was a shift around technology giants, people like Oracle, people like SAP. They started to revamp their product offerings. Um, Coincidentally, we're consulting for an oil and gas company then, but there was a shift, emphasis on data. Data had suddenly become the new oil. Companies, organizations, governments, educational establishments, everyone started clamoring and clamoring for data. Why? Because with data, you get value. Organizations began to understand that instead of just doing guesswork or just randomly making decisions based on either experiences from people in the past around offices. We wanted to make more informed decisions and to see what insights can be gotten from actually analyzing data. So, if they analyze the data, what kind of information can they get that can steer the direction of the organization, their business objectives, their strategy, and even how they even employ people? So, there's this big boom. So suddenly, governments now realize for planning budgets, so budgeting and creating planning infrastructure or resources for different states, local governments, even employing people. We want to get actual data and do this from an informed position. Sorry, I think there's noise at the background. Let me see. Testing, can you help me with that? All right, great. Great, great, great. All right. So now, data, as we said, why are these big companies? Why are they so interested in data? Why Facebook? I mean, you hear all the stories in Google in the media, and you hear AWS, you hear Twitter. I mean, why are they all clamoring and clamoring for this data? Is it really big? Why do they care? Should you care about it? Why should you care? I mean, you can hear all the um, um, uh, political back and forth between some of the tech giants and governments trying to increase the tax because they believe they're making so much money and all of that. But it boils down to one single thing: the data. Why are they so interested in data? Why is the government also so protective about this data? Why is the government also creating legislation to try and protect this data? Why should you be interested in knowing more about this data, and how does this all add up? Is this data really big? Now let's have a look at this. Now this is Internet Live Stats. All right, this website is capturing in real time. I mean real time. All right, how many people are currently signed into the internet? How many emails have been sent today? Now, when I mean sent today, I mean as at 12:24 p.m. UK time. This time might be plus one in your region, plus 10, plus five, minus two, depending on what that time is. As at right now, all right? Timestamp now. Now you can see the number of emails being sent. Look at the number of tweets that have been sent today alone, all right? Now look at the number of Instagram pictures that are being currently uploaded. Millions, billions. All right. Google searches. Now imagine just focusing on the tweets alone. See how the numbers are climbing. So imagine that you own a company, all right? You have a product, you have product offerings that you give clients, and you want to begin to understand how people are using my product. All right. Perhaps you might want to then begin to mine those tweets, grab tweets, all right? Grab some of those tweets, search for hashtags, check for about your product. Begin to understand the sentiments. What's the sentiment about my product? How do people feel about my product? You see, the data, you can see how large it is. So it's extremely, extremely huge. So you now begin to think, okay, the data is there. Clearly, the data is being made. But then, how then would I be able to get value from this? You need people who can do that. So you need people with the skills that can grab some of this data, depending on what kind of data, because these are just so many different data sources. All right. Now, that's just the tip, and that's just the start. All right. But with all of this data, what does this all mean? When we're talking about this revolution of data, now there's been the first revolution in the 1800s when we talk about mechanization. In the second revolution, we talk about electrification. The third industrial revolution, which was about more automation and globalization. The fourth industrial revolution, which is Industry 4, which a lot of you may know about, has to do with things around digitalization. So you hear things talk and big talk around digital business strategies, companies trying to create their digital offerings to be able to see how they can adapt to the new digital trend. This is where you have this blur line between AI, that's artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, things like blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. All right. And again, for those of you that may not know, one single thread that binds all of this together is the data. So clearly, with the fourth revolution, data is becoming more and more accessible. So we have sensor companies that are creating different types of sensors and retrofitting these sensors to different products. Your mobile phones, your smart devices in the house, smart office assistants, and all of that. But then there's now even the Industry 5. And with the Industry 5, you're looking at more personalization of products and services. So they are now going to go deeper, where you now have this multi-level cooperation between people and machine. All right, you would have this collaboration. All right, more collaboration and creating more tailored product offerings for customers. So with Industry 4, we're already getting to understand what people want, and I'll talk about that. One of the projects I worked on for almost 3 years. I'll tell you about that shortly. So that's it. So with the Industry 4 and 5, data is now more accessible because even the prices of the sensors have fallen. And there's much and much more innovation around sensor technologies. So look at the cars that you have now. I'm sure most of you, for those depending on how old you are, you can remember what that old Beetle car looked like. Compare that old Beetle car or your old 544 car compared to kind of cars you have today. You have cars that are autonomous. You have cars that have parking assistance. You're pulling back into a parking slot, and then the car is beeping when you're getting close to to an obstacle. How do you think that happens? What do you think is making that noise? Some of you have children, you have baby monitors at home, and from remote location, you can begin to understand and see what's happening in your home. How does that happen? Okay. Some of you also might have sensors that help you even adjust your sitting positions. So you have smart seats. So you sit in the car, you can push a button, and the car recognizes, okay, this is how I set this, I predefine this sitting position, and then the car automatically the seat adjusts to your body structure. And then someone else comes into the car and pushes another button, and the seat adjusts to that person's. But how is that possible? How do you achieve that? Now, all of that is centered around the data. The data is growing wider, the data is getting larger, the application and the usage across various industries. For instance, in this slide here, we can see that manufacturing, for instance, is consuming about 40.2%, healthcare 30.3, retail 8.3, security 7.7, transportation 4.1. Now, we're all in the wake. We've all been impacted in one way or the other with this whole COVID-19. But guess what? While a lot of people were losing their jobs, a lot more people were getting jobs, and they were even looking for more people that they couldn't find in certain sectors. Yes, in technology, a lot of people are talking about remote work. How is that possible? How you work? And did we not see all of that happen? A lot of people working remotely, technology experts, innovative new ways. I mean, look at now we're having this webinar right now online, and some of you are in different parts of the world, and we're doing this in real time. Companies are even innovating ways to be able to understand how their employer their staff are faring at home. How can they record and clock some of the activities they are doing in real time? Look at the around the COVID and how hospitals were looking for robotic assistants to be able to help give patients certain things, or even sensorized drug dispensing machines, like some machines that dispense the drugs that automatically give people injections after certain hours. All right, monitor the blood pressure, monitor their heart rates, monitor a lot of things, send all of that information to a screen, a big screen, where from the nurses station they can begin to monitor a wide range of people. How did they develop apps to be able to detect between different areas, to be able to see all of that information streaming in, to be able to know, okay, that in this region perhaps you need to be careful, or in that region you need to be careful. I've seen some of the applications and sensors roped into mobile phones and apps that should detect people's body temperatures from using the cameras to be able to see if there's a change. So there's so much innovation happening in this space. So what can we do? Let's give some kind of definition to this Internet of Things. So we can simply say, like, for more you have, there's a collection of devices, sensors, services that exist in an interconnected ecosystem. Keyword ecosystem. An ecosystem because there are different components coexisting in one. And what are they doing? Sharing data. So there's data being shared between all of these systems because they are all interconnected. All right. And there's this whole talk about the number of devices that will be connected by 2020, 2030. Now, guess what? It's in the billions. Some say 200 billion, some say 50 billion. I would just simply say it's in the billions because think about it. Some of you, I'm sure, have smart Fitbit wristwatches that count your number of steps. Some of majority of us here probably use smartphones. So our smartphones can literally count the steps that we take a day. All right. I mean, you pick up your mobile phone, all right, you turn it sideways. Ever wonder how the phone knew that the picture should turn the other way? Ever thought about that? Guess what? That's a sensor. All of those mobile phones are equipped with acceleration sensor, with angular velocity, with orientation sensor, with position sensors, things that detect your latitude and longitude. Okay, let's give another example. What of your Google Maps? For some of you, you depend on Google Maps to navigate from one position to another. How do you think it knows where you are? How would your phone detect that there is a pin location on point A on planet Earth, and then you are going to point B, location B, and then it begins to route you. And not only does it route you like a straight line, but it begins to navigate you and tell you, okay, there might be delay on this route. You need to use this other route. There's delay on this route. Or you need to route this. You see this way. So now all of these things are changing, and it's changing the way we live, changing the way we interact, changing the way people uh, get satisfaction for some of the things that we do. Now let's look at this. Now this is the Tesla Autopilot. Now the Tesla vehicle, I'm sure all of us know about Tesla. I mean, with Elon Musk, I mean, right now there's a lot of talk about him, one of the wealthiest men in the world, if not the wealthiest right now. I'm not check the stats. But then with the Tesla vehicle and with the autonomous vehicle driving itself, how is this done? Now let's watch this short video. Then I'll draw a few things from there.
Autopilot. It's the most well-known driver assistance system in the world, and its features have impressed millions. But it's even more impressive than meets the eye. When people think about Autopilot, they tend to look at what it can do. It can keep you within a lane, even in tight curves. It can adjust its speed to match the car ahead of you. It can change lanes on its own. It can take highway exits on its own. You probably already know all of this if you've ever used Autopilot, if you've witnessed it, or even if you just looked into it online. Now, this stuff alone is incredible, and it's enough to amaze almost anyone who gets to see it in action, but trust me when I say that this is just the tip of the iceberg. The key to seeing how impressive Autopilot actually is lies in the smallest details. In February of 2020, Tesla released this 30-second clip showing an example of what the forward-facing Autopilot camera sees, along with all the annotations made by the computer, which demonstrates what the system understands about the world around it. Okay, so at first glance, it looks pretty complicated, but also pretty cool, right? Let's take a closer look at the details. Let's start with these arrows on the right.
All right, so let's just stop there. So you're wondering, how is that possible? Think about it. The car is equipped with different sensors around the body and cameras. It has cameras positioned at different positions around the car, and then all of those sources of data points, both the sensors and the cameras, are feeding different AIs. So they have different AI models that are computing that information to help the car make decisions to detect certain things. So, for instance, the cameras might detect a stop sign. It reads the stop sign and sends that information into the convolutional neural network, that AI. Forget about all of that. Just classify that as AI. And then certain decisions are made. The car can then detect the lanes, and then it can then move between lanes. So you might be wondering, oh, this seems really complicated. Okay, so that's the application in the car. Now, what about in your home? Some of you might be able to relate to some of these things in your houses. Smart hoovers, smart kettles, smart ovens, smart light switches, and all of that. I mean, I was speaking to a friend the other day, and he just bought one of the robot cleaners, and he says it's really helpful because I mean he's a medical doctor. They have kids, and he gets back, he's tired, and the children have done a mess around the entire house. All he does is to push a button, and the robot cleaner goes around the entire house, going around the entire house, just hoovering the entire house for them. Isn't that brilliant? And then you have things like smart kettles. So I know some analysis that were thrown around smart kettles for elderly people, and just trying to understand the data consumption and be able to read from the signal of information coming. And you can then detect if, for instance, an elderly person either doesn't go into the fridge or go to make a cup of tea in the morning, especially depending on where you are in this part of the world. I mean, a lot of people drink a lot of tea and coffee. So imagine when you don't see the elderly person either open the fridge or get a cup of make a hot cup of tea from the data that's streaming in from their smart kettle, or perhaps from the camera in their fridge, and then immediately then call to check up on them. Are you okay? And if you don't hear anything, you can then either send someone to check up on them. And this has saved a lot of lives, even here in the UK. I remember someone giving an example of how they noticed that the smart fridge they had in her mom's house they noticed that the mom hadn't gone into the fridge for a whole day, and they tried calling her and she didn't pick. Immediately, they called the police and said driving there, and they actually found her on the ground, and she had an accident, and obviously they rushed her to the hospital, and but she was okay at the end. Now, this is what's happening because products are getting smarter. Wristwatches, wall clocks, hoovers, ovens, light bulbs, light switches, curtains, televisions, everything. But then, even with these things getting smarter, they are generating data. So they need people to be able to make sense of all of this data. Remember, your air conditioning, your smartphones, all right? So is it in the factory? It's getting smarter. Is it in a home? It's getting smarter. Is it around your transportation, your cars? It's getting smarter. So let's look at it and let's break this down a bit. Let's look at a small example. So let's look at this fridge. I like this example a lot because I relate to it. Now, everybody probably has a fridge in their home. So imagine you walking out the door and your fridge says, hey, don't forget to buy milk. Now, and let me say that again. Yes, it was your fridge. So your fridge actually said to you, hey, Mike, don't forget to buy milk. How did he do that? How did the fridge know, first of all, that it was me going out the house? Then how did it know what I need to buy? So within the fridge, within the smart fridge, there are cameras. Imagine that. And then you have cameras that can literally be looking at the barcode or the expiry date of your milk within the fridge. And then it looks at the quantity. And then it then detects that, okay, there's a user. It senses that there's an information there. There's a user there leaving the house, maybe the particular user, the homeowner, and then it notifies you. And perhaps if the AI around the fridge also has access to your um, Tesco account or one of your big supermarket, for here we have Tesco's, we have the Asda's, we have Sainsbury's. So if the AI within your fridge has access to your account, AI might be able to even place the order and look for a delivery slot that it probably calculates when you'll be home. So if it's interfaced and networked within the other AIs within your smart home, it can begin to detect, okay, might get home from work maybe by 4. So I will pick a delivery slot by 7. And so it then pre-orders the milk for me, pre-orders a new some sausages, depending chicken sausages, or depending on which one you like, your preference. But then how does it do that? So there are sensors in the fridge, there are cameras in the fridge. It then is able to distinguish between a parent, a child. Then it identifies the reason for leaving home. It then also gets context. So context like the store hours, when are the stores open? Okay, it senses the object. So that object, okay, can sense also the milk. It can read off the barcode of the products in the fridge. And then also it processes this information. So there's data collected from these sensors. There's an actuator, all right? An actuator is basically, just think about an actuator like the mover mechanism that helps you control the signal. So a signal is passed. It requires a signal to be passed into the actuator, and a source of energy, and then it then acts. Like imagine controlling a valve. So a valve can be opened or closed based on certain signal that is passed to it. A lot of you might have gates that you're driving close to the gate, you see the gate just open, or perhaps in your homes or in some supermarkets, you walk, get close to the door, and then the door opens for you, and then you walk past, then the door closes. How did you do that? So there are sensors there. There are sensors that detect motion, detect proximity, and based on that proximity, when it receives a signal that, okay, an object or an individual is close to me, it sends a signal, actuator, can you open now? And the actuator now opens. You see? So that's how it works. All right. So it's generating data, it's generating all of this data. And then there's also this ecosystem. Remember, we use the word ecosystem. All right. So, in broad sense, the Internet of Things is, in a broad term, it can be described as devices, sensors, and everyday items which are not ordinarily considered to be computers, but which have an internet connectivity and has the computing capability. All right. So, there are lots of application in your cars, trucks, wearables, monitors, all of these things working collectively, collaboratively, passing signals, passing information, okay? And then also to your smart home. Now, a bit more on the IoT. Again, I have another definition there, letting it sink in quite nicely for each and every one of you, all right? So is a network of physical objects, devices, vehicles, buildings, and other items embedded with electronics, software, sensors, and a network connectivity that enables all of these objects to collect and exchange data. Look, for example, the image on the screen. So you can see, for those of you that drive a lot, and then you have, maybe you use an app like Waze as an example, and Waze then tells you, oh, camera trap ahead, or tells you, oh, slow down, there's accident reported ahead. How did you know that? You see, so we have car-to-car communication. We have sensors from the cameras also communicating. Or if you get too close to the vehicle, and then the sensors within your car detects that and says, hey, you need to slow down. Or perhaps when the car notices that you are not driving in one lane. Well, I know in some countries we have people that drive even on the wrong side of the road. So um, that might not be applicable in your case, but in some parts of the world, we have very civilized way of driving. So if you're driving on somewhere and your car notices that you are driving off the wrong lane, your car can then, okay, tell you, okay, perhaps you need to take some coffee break. Perhaps you're falling asleep. I remember someone buying one of these modern cars and shipping it to some of a country in Africa. Don't worry, I will not mention the country name. And the guy just drove the car out of the his compound, and all of a sudden the car just shut down and refused to start. He did everything. The car refused to start. Called the company. The company said, "Well, we can remote connect to the car and everything seems fine, but you seem the car is telling us that you're sleeping." And you're like, "No, I'm not sleeping. I just drove out of my house." But the car manufacturer for that particular model did not consider certain countries that do not have good roads. So the road was too bumpy, and the car concluded with very good probability that this guy is definitely sleeping. Couldn't understand how bumpy that road was, and the car had to shut down. But anyway, that's another story for another day. Anyway, so there are different related terminologies, all right? Terminologies that when it comes to the Internet of Things, you hear about like embedded systems. We have our sensor networks, collection of sensor devices, cyber physical system, which focuses on the interaction between physical systems and cyber systems. So real-time systems or pervasive systems. When you hear about all of this, it's talking about the same thing: Internet of Things, sensor technology, sensor data. But then you might have one question: what does this sensor data actually look like? All right. Now let me show you. Let's have a look at something. So here, I believe you can still all see my screen. I have this bunny here. Now, when I take, I'm sure you can also still see me. Now, that bunny is connected to this sensor. I basically have a sensor here. This is a small sensor. That's the BNO055 Bosch sensor. It's connected to an Arduino microcontroller board. All right. Now, don't worry, you're not going to be soldering or making your own sensor or manufacturing your own sensor. However, there's this thing about seeing to understand. So when you see something, it gives you a better understanding of what you're trying to do. And remember, well, I'm drawing the link between the data. So you see the objects like your phone. Okay, you see your phone, you see aeroplanes flying, but I want to explain how that works now to you. So now I'm holding this breadboard. This breadboard contains the sensor, all right? Now, that bunny you see right there in the screen, each time I flip this sensor board, all right, notice that I'm controlling the position of this bunny, all right? I'm controlling the position of this bunny. When I dip it, it's bending. If I raise it up, it's standing quite nicely. I can even get it to nod at you, all right? If I flip it upside down, notice that the bunny is also upside down. But how am I doing that? Now, let me show you how that's works. Now, look to the right side of the screen. You can see the data that is streaming in. Now, this is the sensor data streaming in. We have things like acceleration X, Y, Z. We have things like magnetic field there. We have things like even the orientation, all right? It's streaming and going in really fast. But then look at the gravity. So for instance, look at gravity X, gravity Y, and gravity Z, all right? Now, I'm sure you all remember from your high school physics things like acceleration due to gravity, anything that falls, anything that you drop must fall down to the earth because there's a force pulling it down to the earth. I'm sure you all remember. You all remember also the number 9.8 meters per second square. Now, very simple. So now if I flip this upside down, notice that the gravity sign there now of Z changes to minus. So gravity is minus 9.4 something. So yes, 9.8 approximately, yes. But we know it's 9.8, but we can see that the sensor is speaking about 9 point something there. But notice that the Z coordinate is minus. Do you know what that means? So that means that if, for instance, this was your mobile phone, all right? Anytime you flip your mobile phone, either turn it sideways, left, or upside down, this is how your phone knows to flip that image. Flip the image, or you're watching a movie on YouTube, or you're looking at the picture of your rabbit or your dog, or you're looking at a picture of your family member. How did it know? This is how it knows. So there's a sensor on your device, all right, that takes that reading, and based on that reading, notice that the Z now is in positive because it's facing up. So if it was flipped down, it would know that that is a minus sign on the Z, because the Z coordinates, you have the three coordinate system, all right? Now, don't worry about all of those things. I'm explaining it to you. You just need to have the high level understanding, and we're going to relate it back to the data. But now, when you pick up your phone and you flip it, you know how that happened. That happened because your phone has sensors. Those sensors allow your Samsung, your iPhone, or whichever product manufacturer for your device to be able to then send that information. So there's an app in your phone that leverage off the sensors in your device that tells it, okay, Mike just flip the phone sideways, and so the image should also flip sideways so that Mike can have a very nice view of the picture. That's how that works. So all of this data, same principle. So it will not matter whether it's a car or an aeroplane that is flying into space or flying down from space, or they all are equipped with all of these sensors down to your phone. Your phone, your Google Maps know you, know where you are, excuse me, because of the position sensor reading your latitude and longitude. And there's a pin on that directly pinpoints your current location. Now, it's doing that, and it's possible because of all of this. This particular sensor, BNO055 sensor, has quite a lot of sensors. It has even a temperature sensor there. I can tell the temperature in this room from there. Can you see that's 27 degrees Celsius? Can you see that right there? Current temperature. So it's reading the temperature. So most times you pick up and you say, "Hey Siri, what's the temperature?" Now, let me not say that too out loud because my phone will respond to me. Now, you see, that's it. So that's how it all works. So this works based on these principles, the sensors. So the sensors are generating data. So it boils down to the data. So the data that is being generated is being consumed by the product manufacturers, consumed by companies that are interested in the data. And that's where we're going. Because the companies are now getting to understand that, hey, if I understand what people want, I'll simply give them what they want. It means I make more money. That's it. There's a no-brainer. So you're making a product. You want to make products that people like, or you want to understand what segments of people like this particular thing from analyzing the data, because it boils down to one single thing. So the single thread that binds all of these things together is what? The data. So the data is what pinpoints, what brings and binds all of this together. Great. Now we're making progress. Let's keep going quickly. Now, it boils down to one thing. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of AI, machine learning. Now, AI, machine learning, all of that is completely impossible without you having data. The reason why you have machine learning, and when we talk about machine learning, we have what we call supervised machine learning, we have unsupervised machine learning, we have reinforcement learning, we also have what we call transfer learning. All right. Now, the two popular or three popular ones that you get to hear about will be supervised, unsupervised, and transfer learning. Okay? With supervised learning, you are dealing with data that is labeled. Labeled data. Labeled data. What do I mean by labeled data? So, for instance, let's say we have the house prices of houses around our location. So we have the location and we have the price. We have the location, we have the price. So that data is labeled because we have, okay, house one costs 20,000 pounds, house two costs 100,000 pounds, house three costs 300,000 pounds. So we have, it's labeled. But then unsupervised, when we talk about unsupervised, what do we mean? Unsupervised machine learning is a type of learning where we're dealing with data sets that are unlabeled. So for instance, we can have a shopping data set. So let's say we have people going to shop. So the people go to shop and we want to understand who are the high spenders, high earners, or high shoppers or low shoppers. How can we group them into categories? We're not even sure what categories to group them because we don't even know what that is. So, but we can pass that data into an algorithm, An algorithm will now form groups of these people. These people earn well, spend much. These people do not earn much, but they spend a lot. You know that these people buy a lot of credit. Then you have these other people that are low earners and they are low spenders. So then, if a company now wants to do targeted marketing, they cannot target certain groups of people that you know that would definitely purchase your item. Now, I'll give another example. A lot of you watch a lot of movies, things like Netflix. How do you think Netflix create adverts? Netflix create adverts like maybe three different adverts for one movie. You'd be wondering, why would they do that? Now it's simple. Netflix might think that, okay, there are certain groups of people that like food. All right. So I'll create an advert where the lead character in the movie is eating, is dining well, drinking some expensive wine, and he's speaking some very nice English, and then we're all wild, like a new James Bond movie. Maybe Mr. Bond, they take a particular part of the movie that Bond is having a meal, having dinner with guests or enemies, and then they create an advert from that section of the movie. They know that there are other groups of people that like action, violence, maybe shooting and all of that. Well, not violence, but action. All right. So they like shooting, they like the guns, they like the fast riding cars that James Bond normally put. So they create another preview for James Bond around that. Then they have another set of people that like love, romance. So they create another part where maybe James Bond is dancing to one of I've forgotten names of artists now, of R&B singers. Maybe maybe I'm old school. Maybe some Boys to Men. Maybe well, some old school singing, some Marvin Gaye and James Bond is singing and dancing. So you see, but then they now to decide how then can we detect what group of people fall onto this category. Netflix now takes the data sets, looks at previous movies watched, all right, and they now pass an algorithm to now detect and cluster people. So you have like recommender systems that detect, okay, this group of people will like this other group of people will like this, and that's how AI works. But guess what? What's the single thread that binds all of this together? Is the data. You see that? Now, with the data, you now still need and you need a way to be able to represent this information. You need a way to be able to visualize this information because the data is big. The information is big. So the data is being generated from different sources, like you see, sensors, smartphones, smart devices, smart wristwatches, smart homes, smart factories, smart cars, smart motorcycles, smart bicycles, smart scooters. And then you have other sources of data too. Things like your social media, your Twitters, your Facebook, your Instagram. All right. Now, all of this data is enormous. But then it boils down to one thing. How then can you pass this information in a way that someone can understand? How then can you give this information to somebody and they'll be able to consume this information in a way that they would understand? Now, let me show you this other video. This explains it and brings it home quite nicely. All right. 1 second. All right.
Visualization is right at the heart of my own work too. I teach global health. And I know having the data is not enough. I have to show it in ways people both enjoy and understand. Now, I'm going to try something I've never done before. Animating the data in real space, with a bit of technical assistance from the crew.
So, here we go. First, an axis for health, life expectancy, from 25 years to 75 years. And down here, an axis for wealth, income per person, $400, $4,000, and $40,000. So down here is poor and sick, and up here is rich and healthy. Now, I'm going to show you the world 200 years ago, in 1810. Here come all the countries. Europe brown, Asia red, Middle East green, Africa south of Sahara blue, and the Americas yellow. And the size of the country bubbles show the size of the population. And in 1810, it was pretty crowded down there, wasn't it? All countries were sick and poor. Life expectancy were below 40 in all countries. And only UK and the Netherlands were slightly better off, but not much. And now, Why start the world? The Industrial Revolution makes countries in Europe and elsewhere move away from the rest. But the colonized countries in Asia and Africa, they are stuck down there. And eventually, the Western countries get healthier and healthier. And now we slow down to show the impact of the First World War and the Spanish flu epidemic. What a catastrophe! And now I speed up through the 1920s and the 1930s. And in spite of the Great Depression, Western countries forge on towards greater wealth and health. Japan and some others try to follow, but most countries stay down here. Now, after the tragedies of the Second World War, we stop a bit to look at the world in 1948. 1948 was a great year. The war was over, Sweden topped the medal table at the Winter Olympics, and I was born. But the differences between the countries of the world was wider than ever. United States was in the front, Japan was catching up. Brazil was way behind, Iran was getting a little richer from oil, but still had short lives. And the Asian giants, China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indonesia, they were still poor and sick down here. But look what is about to happen. Here we go again. In my lifetime, former colonies gained independence, and then finally they started to get healthier and healthier and healthier. And in the 1970s, then countries in Asia and Latin America started to catch up with the Western countries. They became the emerging economies. Some in Africa follows. Some Africans were stuck in civil war and others hit by HIV. And now we can see the world today in the most up-to-date statistics. Most people today live in the middle, but there are huge differences at the same time between the best of countries and the worst of countries. And there are also huge inequalities within countries. These bubbles show country averages, but I can split them. Take China, I can split it into provinces. There goes Shanghai. It has the same wealth and health as Italy today. And there is the poor inland province Guizhou. It is like Pakistan. And if I split it further, the rural parts are like Ghana in Africa.
And yet, despite the enormous disparities today, we have seen 200 years of remarkable progress. That huge historical gap between the West and the rest is now closing. We have become an entirely new converging world. And I see...
Great. Now, that's a story of 200 years told with in less than 4 minutes with just data visualization. Now, this is the power of visualization that we're talking about. This is the power of being able to articulate numbers, huge numbers, in a way that people can understand. So it will not matter whether you are doing data science or data sciences or machine learning or data analyst or people in engineering or people that construction. Once there's data, that data needs to be presented in such a way that people can understand. All right. That's why we need people with the skills to be able to use tools to visualize the information. So it means that there are different roles that you can jump in depending on the one you want. But I will talk about that shortly because we're almost done. So visualization is that power and process of forming a mental picture or visioning something not actually present to the sight. So sometimes people tend to miss certain things because it's not there. And each and every one of us, remember at some point you were a child. You may not remember your childhood, but guess what? There are principles that were used to train us even as children. Remember that when you were taught how to count 1, 2, 3 or ABC, do you remember that they formed it into a song? Because scientists say that the human mind can actually store about 2 to 3 chunks of information. So instead of teaching a child 26 alphabets, they now change it into a song and it becomes like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Can you see you are singing one song rather than counting 26 alphabets? That's why you train up children in songs and rhymes. And some of us even practice those same kinds of principles when we're trying to cram a reduction formula in further mathematics or some very large equations. We form some kind of acronym to be able to symbolize or help us remember that particular things. Especially some of my friends that are either in medicine, you see them having to read some really fat books, and they're forming very, very nice either songs in their heads or some acronym to be able to remember. That's what you're practicing. You are actually practicing that element of visualization to be able to merge the information into one chunk that you can digest much nicely. So with data visualization, we're now talking about using visual representations to explore or make sense and communicate the data. And that was an explanation, a definition by Stephen Hugh. And basically, what do you do with the visualization? You explore to discover insights, or you can do sense making to get a better understanding around what is happening around the data. All right. Communication, like the video you saw just now, how he was drilling down into specific countries and discovering that some other countries were quite similar to that of Ghana. You see, so by exploring, you are discovering insights from the data. You can also try to use the data visualization to get more sense, make sense, get a better understanding, and of course, very importantly, communication. Because if you have all of these resources and all of that, if you don't communicate the information, of what use is it? You see, so we use data visualization so much, and we require people with skills that can do that because the world is becoming more and more data dependent. So I'll talk about this very quickly and give an example of another project that I worked on. Now, this project was called the Chatty Factories. It was funded to be able to help empower UK PLCs, UK companies, with a new data driven model that can help them understand how people use products in the wild. And part of what we did was to use sensor data. So, sensors embedded on products, and then use that data, stream that data in, apply AI to that, and then make sense of the data to then create new products. So, we had to create experiments. Sorry, the next screen I'm going to go to might have a video that has a loud volume. So, if the volume comes up, don't, sorry about that. All right. So yeah, so I had to create experiments. So in the experiments, for instance, how to use products. So using a product at home, in the house. So that's a blender. I had to borrow my wife's blender or throwing the device down, picking up the device. You understand? So why do I do all of this? So think about it. So there are ways and different ways you use products at home. I wanted a way to be able to detect how people use products at home. So I created experiments. One, for instance, detecting vibrations. Where will you detect vibrations? In the kitchen. So perhaps people have a smart speaker. How would you want to know where they use that speaker? So if I sense vibrations in the home, I can tell that okay, perhaps they play a lot of music when they're cooking. What happens if I want to detect fall? So because accidents do happen. So is it the company's fault as the manufacturer, or is this a customer fault? How to detect? So I can then begin to analyze the data to detect, okay, if this device fell, how high did it fall? How high did it fall? How long did it travel before it hit the ground? And perhaps when it hit the ground, which area did it hit the ground on? So by beginning to understand this data, I can begin to drive insights that tell me a lot more about what is happening. And then with all of that data, I create a dashboard. So now this dashboard, as you can see my screen, is a 3D representation of the orientation sensor. So here is me analyzing the data now, analyzing the orientation sensor from the data to be able to understand what's happening. So doing a 3D plot, I can begin to see the signals. As I move my mouse over it, you can see it showing me the XYZ and data point for the orientation. And to the right here, you can see the readings, all right? And then you can see the marker color. The marker color is representative of the cluster. Now, I didn't only collect this data. After collecting the data, I wanted to validate my proof. I wanted to prove that I can actually use machine learning to be able to detect the activity that was happening. Now, if you look at the plot below, this is the line plot of the orientation. So now this is a line plot. I can zoom in, obviously, um, even on the second plot. I can zoom in there. I can, when I take my mouse there, I can detect, okay, what particular activity is happening there. So for instance, it's sitting down, all right, because I had to simulate various activities like sitting down, standing, vibration, like you saw, drop and pick up, all right. Now I wanted to see what those signal looks like. So by visually looking at that, and then clustering it also. So I did two things. This is the machine learning cluster, and this is the actual activity. So here I can see this is where it was vibrating, like you saw in the video. This is where I was sitting down with the device, and it's telling me that's cluster 2. All right. This is where I was dropping and picking up the device. That's cluster 3. And then this is where I was standing, and it's showing me cluster 0. All right. And then this is where I was walking. So I was walking with the device, and then it was obviously going up and down because your leg movement has different signals. But guess what? Take a look at this drop and pick up. Good. It's telling me that that's cluster 3. So if I come here to the 3D plot, can you see that this particular point, data point here, is showing me marker color 3? So I can begin to see what the data signal actually looks like when I was actually dropping and picking up the device. This is the power of visualization. I can begin to tell and infer so that if we deploy a model, and we can tell when people are either running with their devices, or how do you think your phone tells you how many steps you took? You see, we can infer all of those things. If you even come to the bottom, I can even calculate the force. I can calculate the force of what happened. I can zoom in to see the signal. All right. I can see, okay, when I was here, this is where the force was. The force was minus 15. All right. And that's telling me the cluster. I can begin to tell, okay, because I was falling and throwing this device from the kitchen worktop, I can tell the length of the fall. This becomes extremely powerful when you're not trying to drive certain insights from your data. All right. Extremely powerful. So all of those things can then be labeled. You can then understand by the power of visualization. Now, you see, the beauty about the skills you're learning is that it is not only applicable to only IoT. So, yes, we're analyzing IoT data and signals from all of these things, detecting now the drop, the pickup, the various activities I was carrying out. All right. But we can also use the same skills and tools like the Tableau or the Power BI or the Python scripting language to be able to build all of these dashboards and get insight for, is it customer set data sets? Is it movie data sets from Netflix? Or is it healthcare images for detecting pneumonia or detecting malaria? You see what I mean? We can do all of those things with the tools that we have. So that's the power of visualization. So we're able to look at the data points and then specifically say, okay, this data set was we're doing this. At this data point, we're doing this other thing. That's the power of visualization. Now, if I showed you this image very quickly and say, okay, here in the image, what do you see? How many toothbrushes do you see? Some might say, oh, I can see one here. But some people might say, oh, I didn't see this other larger one there. Now, because when you have a picture like this, your mind is programmed that okay, usually toothbrushes are this small, but then you might be not too sure of this really large one that is right there, right in front of you. So that's the power of visualization, because with visualization, you can get to understand and see things that are right there, but that you might miss. Now, I had a question here, but I mean, for the sake of time, I think I'll just skip that. All right. Into the main course, I'll show you a lot more on that. All right. So for popping out effects. So if I ask, for instance, how many fives were there? So you see how hard it was to see the number of fives there. But you can see now the popped out effect. I can then obviously demonstrate that effect, and it's easier for you to now tell me how many fives are actually in the image because I've given a popped out effect. So this is the power of visuals. So the visuals are extremely, extremely powerful. Now, let me tell you about this before I show you this other graphic. Let me explain the narrative around this. So there's this graphic about um, Edward Toffel. All right. Edward Toffel calls Minard's graphic of Napoleon's Russian invasion as one of the best statistical drawing ever created. All right. It makes it so good to understand a story. So what I will do first is to tell you a brief about the story before I show you the image. Okay. So the year was 1812. Napoleon was doing pretty well for himself. Okay, he had most of Europe under his control except for the United Kingdom. So no matter how hard he tried to invade them, he couldn't break through their defenses. So his plan was to now create some kind of embargo, forcing the other European nations and countries around them to stop trading with the United Kingdom. So he believed that that will weaken them enough so that Napoleon can then invade them and take them over very easily. But there was this guy, this man called Caesar Alexander of Russia. He sees what Napoleon was trying to do, and he immediately thought that that was wrong because Napoleon was trying to become too powerful. And if someone did not curtail that power, what stops him from now trying to dominate the other countries? So Caesar Alexander of Russia refused to participate in this embargo. So angry, Alexander decided, Napoleon gathers a massive army. In those days, foot soldiers were, if you have a lot of foot soldiers, obviously, you are a very strong army. All right. So this guy gathered 400,000 foot soldiers to go and attack Russia in June in 1812. So while Russia's troops were not obviously as numerous as France's, Russia had a plan. So Russian troops kept retreating. So each time Napoleon marches ahead, the Russian troops will obviously retreat. And when they retreat, they will burn down that village. They will burn down their village so that by the time the French forces get there, they will not even see food to eat. There will be no crops to eat. There will be not even mangoes. They will cut down all the trees, cut down all the sugar canes, cut down whatever fruits they had in those regions, and make sure that the armies didn't get anything to eat. And remember, this guy had a 400,000 strong army. So imagine getting to a village that thinking that you're going to conquer it, have food, ponder them, and acquire all of their food and obviously their wealth. But then you get there, and the Russian kept doing that, kept doing that, kept doing that, and until the war was over before it even started. Now, that story I just told you briefly. Let's see a graphic that explains this quite nicely. Now, check this out. From this graphic, what do we see? This is where we have the Napoleon army starting to march. Here they have their over 400,000 men strong. The size of this brown line is indicative of the strength and the size of the army, all right? The size of the army. Notice that as they begin to march towards Moscow, the size of this brown line starts to diminish. Mind you, what's the temperature at the lower part? This is the temperature. We're talking about Moscow here. We're talking about um, Russia. You know how cold Russia is. Okay, Russia is very cold. Some of us are even scared to go there because of the cold. All right. So imagine the army starts to reduce. Here, obviously, 50,000 men of his army branch out to fight another small war. Obviously, he lost some men. By the time he gets back here, he has about 35,000 to come and join the other ones. Here, again, you see what happens. The armies keep reducing. By the time they get to this particular village, they have just about 175,000 men. By the time he gets all the way to Moscow, he had only 100,000 men. And by the time he got to Moscow, the Russians had already retreated from there and burnt down the entire city. So there was not even Moscow to surrender and say, okay, victory. So Napoleon's march was a complete waste of time. He simply just took men to die. And then he now decided, well, this is a fool's errand. I have wasted my time. I have lost this battle because there's nobody to even claim victory over because the Russians were retreating and burning down their cities. So Napoleon then decides, okay, here, let's go back home. And then he starts to go back home and he has just 100,000 men that starts to leave back from Moscow. But remember, the terrain is very harsh, extremely cold. These men had not seen cold like that. And obviously sleeping outside in the bush, in the snow, in all of those things, they start to die. Some of them get sick, some of them wild animals, snakes, all those things. Well, and the army starts to reduce. The black line is indicative of the number of people and number of army he has, soldiers he has. And guess what? By the time he gets back home, he had only 10,000 soldiers. Only 10,000 soldiers. This is the power of visualization. That entire story that I told you just before now, with one single graphic, we can see the lines, we can see the temperature, we can see the names of the villages they attacked, and at one point, what was the army strength going, what was their army strength coming. We can tell all of that narrative. So you see, that's the power of visualization. We can tell stories with the data. We can tell it in a way that people can understand. We can derive and drive insights that people can then take away and then make um, 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 strategic decisions on. Now, that's the power of visualization. Just to show you, this is Tableau. For most of you that may not have never seen Tableau before, you'll get to see that in real time on the course. All right, this is a dashboard and you can see different things here showing world map. And here, this is obviously is we're analyzing some data set here, and this is an executive overview. We can also even see the customer analysis and customer analysis there, looking at the trend line between profitability of products. You can even see the customer ranking, all right? And you can drill down information in all of these things. It becomes extremely powerful. You can filter information, select specific sites to be able to do your analysis, drill down, drill out, all right? You need tools that are able to help you now crunch all of those data, things that would help you do certain things, do some forecasting, all of those analysis, and then you are able to then obviously um, and tell stories and give insights to your bosses, to the management, for them to be able to make decision on. And that's the beauty of having tools like Tableau there, or Power BI, or some of or even Python scripting language for you to be able to do that. But you get to know and see a lot more of all of this on the course. All right. Now, um, you might ask yourself, why do I need to know all of this? This slide shows you the planned business adoption in response to COVID-19. Now, this is a slide taken from the World Economic Forum, and this is a survey done as of 2020, so this is fresh. All right. Notice that we're going to have an acceleration between of digitalization of the workplace. So use digital tools, video conferencing tools. All right. It's growing. So provide more opportunities to work remotely, accelerate automation. So you're going to hear a lot of companies wanting to do automation, accelerate digitalization and upskilling and reskilling, education, technology. All right. So these are things that are paramount in our time. People want to be able to work remotely. People will need businesses to continue. They don't want everything to be driven down to a halt. They want people to be able to work, people to be able to do that. All right. And guess what? This means that there's a shortage of skills. So it means there's now more increase in people that have like things like data analysts or data scientists or AI machine learning experts or big data specialists or people that are digital marketing or strategists or IoT experts. All of those things, the Internet of Things specialists. You see, all of these skill sets are in demand. And most times, once you have either your visualization skills or you understand IoT, you will become extremely valuable in the world we're going into and what we are already in right now, as you can see, because there's so much dependence on the data. So that's why you need to now begin to shift your mindset. All right. Whether you are technical or non-technical, you can't escape it. The world is driven by data now. So the question is, will you keep saying, "Oh, I'm a business person. I'm not"? Even all the business analysts I speak with today, all of them need to obviously have some kind of skill set visualizing the data. You not just capture the requirement, you need to present the information in a way that the client will understand. You need to be able to do that. So even as a BA, as a business analyst, you need to be able to be knowledgeable. You might even be on a project that has to do with all of this. So how do you communicate with the developers and all of that if you yourself do not build yourself up? So you saying, "Oh, I'm a BA and I know I've used Tableau before. I know about IoT," already puts you higher than other people that are applying for such roles. All right. Now, these are some of the target jobs that you can probably even be looking at: data analyst, business analyst, so business analytics specialist, BI, or data engineer, or big data expert, BI, or machine learning people. All of these people, all of these skills, or data visualization experts, there are so many. These are just a few. They're just a few. And that's why, with the course, I'm sure Wale will talk about a bit more about that. What the bundle is offering. First of all, you need to be introduced to the world of IoT. Companies are looking for people that can help them create value on IoT or from IoT, or products, help them generate products. So you can be a product manager, and because you understand IoT, so you can land a job around product management for IoT. You can be a project manager around IoT knowledge. Okay. You can be a business analyst around IoT knowledge with data visualization. Okay. You can be targeting roles around that. So it's for both non-technical people and technical people. Most of the financial analyst people I see and the roles I see now, they ask them, "Oh, do you even know things like Python, or can you visualize some of this information?" And that's why I told you about the bonus. So the bonus that we're actually giving, included with the Internet of Things, with the visualization with Tableau and all of that, we're also going to give you an introduction to Python. Yes, it's important you have an idea of the scripting language that is mostly used everywhere in the world, in Silicon Valley, all of that. It's a bonus. So whether you are a technical or non-technical person, you should be able to be dealing with developers or people that are scripting, and you know what they're doing. So you can manage the projects more efficiently. All right. You might also have a flair for the technical side. That's fine. So aside from getting to understand the entire landscape of IoT, you will then begin to know more about visualization. And then we're now going to also introduce you to the world of scripting. And we'll take you and handhold you along the way to be able to do all of that. How to pre-process data using Tableau, for instance, from Excel, from CSV file, how to create calculated fields, how to use visuals, colors, how to be able to tell the story, and obviously how to also tell people about it, how to export this into your report. So you have company annual report and all of that. And another thing we're going to be training you on is having the analytical mindset. How do you see things and begin to analyze? How would you begin to visualize the information? Because that's what your company wants. They want to be able to see value from what you are doing. They want you to be able to show them how you can help them generate value. Okay? So these are the things that you are going to be getting around all of this. I will allow Wale talk to you more about that. Thank you very much. Wale, over to you.
All right, guys. Great insight there. I think what we should do is let's take questions first. Then I would comment shortly. Then I can talk about what would happen next, and we can take it from there. So, guys, if you have any question, please, by all means, there are no stupid questions. Yeah. So there are no stupid questions. Yeah. So there are no stupid questions. Please unmute yourself. Ask all the questions that you would like to ask. Then I would talk more around what would happen next, and we'll take it from there. Any questions? There are no stupid questions. Any questions?
I think someone raised their hand. Benga, someone raised his hand.
Did anybody raise their hand there?
Yeah.
Hi.
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 Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, my name is Adeomik. I currently work as a business intelligence analyst. I just want to find out, like, I'm new in the role for about a year now, because I've been working as a business analyst before and thinking of being a data scientist. So do I have anything that can do with your training platform that will help me?
Yes, absolutely. Like I mentioned, what we are packaged with this particular bundle is you're going to do you're going to get knowledge and skills within the IoT. We've also included the visualization side and then also the scripting side of with Python. Okay, so as a data scientist, like I showed you multiple roles of targeted roles that people can actually target with all of this happening. Okay, one of them is a data scientist. All right, as a data scientist or machine learning or AI expert, you would be able to command the skills. You would have relevant knowledge in how to get data, how to analyze the data, how to be able to either prepare it for machine learning. You see what I mean? Before you now start to build the models. So yes, you're going to get to learn a lot of all of that. And like Wally already mentioned, I am a data scientist. So I would talk a lot about that because one of the things we're going to do is to see how we can also position you. So, for instance, by the time we start the class and start with the whole cohort, one of the things we do is to try to know where everybody's coming from, know your background, know what your aspirations are, what's your target role, what role are you targeting. And then when we have an idea about that, then we know how to kind of position and steer you and then tell you, okay, you need to have this, you need to do this. And then we start to build your profile. So for instance, as an example, with some of the things we do, you're going to now have data sets that you're going to analyze, things that you can then put in your GitHub. So I'm not sure, you might even have a GitHub account yet. Do you have a GitHub account yet?
Myself,
Yes.
I think I used to have one. Not
Okay,
sure
so
anymore.
so now, okay, so you're going to have to revive, you're going to have to reawaken that GitHub account. All right. So you're going to have examples where you now post some of the analysis you've done, things that you can also usually put in your resume and all of that, so you can start to build your knowledge around data science and all of that.
Mhm. And sorry, you talked about AI. You know, with Power BI, there's a tool that you can use with Power BI to actually, tell a story about your visuals, to click on it and to get the analyze and tells you the artificial intelligence about the whole thing. Is that more to it, or that is just all about the AI?
Oh, there's a lot more. When I mean
Okay.
a lot, a lot more. Okay.
Yeah.
So for instance, as an example, if you were going to plot, have you ever plotted a 3D plot with Power BI before?
No, I
Have you
haven't
looked
used
at,
3D.
oh, exactly. Have you don't try to explore a three-dimensional plot? You see what I mean? So there are certain times when you have data that have 20 dimensionality. What do you do? How then do you reduce it into a dimension that you can actually even begin to visualize?
Mm,
You see, so there's so much in AI. However, there's always a starting place and where you can position yourself. The journey is very big, but the most important thing is just getting you started,
okay.
starting to familiarize yourself with the tools before you then begin to go into different areas. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you for that explanation, Mike. And I don't want anybody to get scared when Mike started talking about 20 dimensions of blah, 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 blah. Somebody will just be like, oh my God, this is another physics. All right. It is not. One thing that we do and we do very well in smart learning, it's ability to understand the background that you have come from, and help you to plot a career path, that will lead you into a defined destination. So I'm glad that you have asked that questions and it kind of opened up everything for us. So guys, ask more questions because if you don't ask, you don't want to assume. You know what I mean? There are no stupid question here, and it does not really matter what background you have come from. All
Yeah.
right. So whether you're a teacher, you're a bus driver, or whether you're even in between job, see, we pride ourselves in something in smart learning. We're here to help, all right? And I believe, and you may not agree with me, that there is no stupid person in this life. You just have to harness what they have, listen to them, then help them, with, what they've told you and the career path that the career path, that they desire for themselves. See, higher on our platform, we have seen life change. We have seen, people that doesn't, that haven't come from any background at all. When I say background, educational background at all, that do not even have any work experience, that their life has been transformed on our platform because, this is what we do. This is what we enjoy, doing. And we have that ability, and the expertise as well, to help people. So do not be scared when you start to hear about, 3 or 4 or even 10 dimensional, data. All right, because we can listen to you, we can meet you where you are and take you to a desired destination that you want, for yourself. What is also interesting about, this program is because, we've been in this business of helping people, to shape their career, in the last 7 years, and it's getting better every day. And why do I say that? Is because our processes, are maturing every day. When we started, we're pretty much everywhere, but now we understand that, see, to make, the most out of a training and to get the best out of people is first you have to listen to them. You have to understand where they are and where they are coming from. And this is what we do in smart learning that is different from other platforms. So yes, you can interact with the website. Yes, you could go and book a course on the website, but for us, it is different. We want to engage with you. And that's part of the next steps, from here. We want to engage with you. If you haven't registered on our platform, please, by all means, do so, because myself and my colleague,
Wally, I think we lost you there.
Able
Okay.
to, ask questions here. And I totally understand. Myself and Mike would like to engage with you over the phone. Tell us, it doesn't really matter. See, for me, I've seen people that have come from, they are similarly working as, a bus driver, and they work as a consultant here in this country as I speak. They are people that are living, they are not dead. So we've seen a whole lot of you know, um, um, some success stories that even blew our mind. We thank God for it. And it's also a testament to what we do here. As man, we're so passionate about people's career, and we want to help. So the next step, like I said, is we would call you, if you put your details down, we will call you, then we will listen to you. Let's understand where you're coming from. Then we'll begin to plot that career path, for you in data visualization and in IoT as well. All right. So Mike said something earlier in terms of what this involves. All right. It's all rounded, training program. So I do not call it, training. Training is a program for us because it would include you having a knowledge of IoT. It would include you having a knowledge of data visualization using Tableau. And the icing on the cake, when I spoke to Mike earlier on, is Mike said I would even go further, to teach, Python, the ability to script as well. So what that simply means is you would understand visualization from the front end. You would also understand visualization from the back end as well. We also have another gentleman, which is, a tutor that's also going to be helping us on the side of Power BI. So somebody was talking about Power BI earlier on. We also have another person, they are not on the call today, but they would also be helping to teach you a lot around Power BI. So it's a well-rounded program, and you cannot, actually afford, to miss this opportunity. So again, can I ask that if you haven't registered, we would email you after the course today. Then we will start to engage with you. Is there any other question that we have there?
Yeah, I can
Maybe
see.
somebody has posted any question.
I can see Chris's hands up. Chris, go
All
ahead.
right, Chris, you can unmute yourself and talk if you have any question.
Yeah, thank you. It's my question is just about what's the duration of this program, right?
Yeah.
So training course on Tableau. What's the duration and timing? Because some people work. So
Absolutely.
Just wanted to understand that really.
Yeah, I can talk about that. So I will talk about the timing. Dr. Mike is just going to give us a very high level in terms of the duration for the end-to-end. All right. I would add a bit to it. Then I hope that would answer your question. So in terms of the timing, we understand that people work in the day. All right. All of our training in smart learning usually start in the evening. All right. So when I say evening, a typical training will start 7 p.m. in the evening. So we spread the training across, several days. So assuming that this particular course, this IoT and data visualization, assuming it's 7 days and it's starting on Monday next week. All right. So that would take a whole 7 days. All right. So it would start, 2 days, for each. 2 hours for each of the days. So it means that it will start at 7 and it will finish at 9. You will do that on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, and a Friday. Then, the following week, which is going to be on a Monday and also a Tuesday as well. All right. So you would spread across 7 days, but 2 hours, per section. Does that answer your question, Chris?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right. So, Dr. Mike, do you want to add to what I've just said now in terms of the duration? I know we're still going to, make sure that, we work on that.
Yeah.
But the last time we did it, how long did it take? Because you're hiding Python to this now, so
Yes,
I know that there will be extra days.
Yes, we're adding Python to it because we want everyone to actually go out with a very robust CV. Okay, because
Yeah.
the one of the things the recruiters actually look out for are these keywords: Python, visualization, scripting, IoT. So we want you to be able to be confident in speaking about that. That's why we're making it really practical. All right. So you would be analyzing data sets. We'll be going through the IoT. You would be able to have conversations around it, be able to point people in the right direction. So we're going to have some extra days because of that, about 3 extra days. But typically we'll be looking at more than slightly above 2 weeks. All right. But we would give the details of that when once you've registered for the program, we'll give you the details of the duration. But like Wally said, it'll be 2 hours because we also take into consideration those working, okay? And each and every one of us also are also involved with other multiple projects. So we would then have to do that from 7 p.m. when we know everyone. It's a more conducive time for you to engage with the program, and you would also be having access to quite a lot of resources that will point you to, and a group where you can also post questions even after the program. All right.
Absolutely.
Alex,
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Alex,
Go on.
Alex's hands is up. I can see Alex up. I
Yeah,
think.
Alex, any question from you?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. And Dr. Olakuji, thank you very much for that enlightening presentation on data usage, which covers how to interact with those big data and create value, and also provide a proper visualization. But my question is about how to ensure that these data are consistent, actually do what it should do, and against compromise.
Yes. So,
and if we have any course on the platform that will help us understand how to protect those data and ensure that they are consistent, aside from the data, the one you talked to us about.
okay. So when you're analyzing data, there are certain things you'd definitely look out from. So on the course, you are going to play with different types of data sets. So you look at, for instance, IoT data sets. You look at data sets from other domains, like even customer data sets. The reason for that is we want to get you familiar with different kinds of data because the tools you would use is going to be consistent. So the same knowledge and tools you apply within IoT, you can apply those tools in analyzing another data. But then while you're analyzing, what are the things you need to look out for? How do you ensure that you do not go and pass out the wrong information? How do you validate what you are doing? What are these safety checks you need to do even while you're processing? What are the data hygiene steps that you need to have even while you're analyzing? For instance, how do you even prepare your data? Would you just take the data and just open it in an Excel and think that's the way to open the data? Or perhaps by even saving it, you've already compromised the entire data set. So these are things that we're going to actually be talking about and also get you comfortable with, such that you know how to collect the data, how to ensure that the data is valid, how to ensure that you do not also overwrite your master data. Okay, so we will be talking about and dealing with all of this and show you how to actually capture, store, analyze these data sets.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mike. I understand where Alex is coming from. I think the accuracy he was talking about there. I think he's probably more interested around the IoT security, how you can ensure that the integrity of the data law is protected, because you can imagine if data is compromised and you're analyzing it, then your foundation is wrong from the from the start.
Absolutely.
So he wanted to know, I wanted to see if that would also be covered as well in our training. I know that you're not just only wearing the cap of a data visualization, you're not only just wearing the cap of someone that can teach visualization. You are also an IoT security consultant as well. So Alex, do not worry. The course will cover everything around security as well. So you can see that this is a well-rounded course, well-rounded that, after this, training, you will go out there and you will be able to smash any job. It's also important that I quickly say this as well. So for us in Smart Learning, it's a program for us. And what do I mean by that? We do not only just stop by understanding who you are or the background that you have come from. After the training, we do a whole lot around what we call post-training support. As a matter of fact, after you've been trained, there's a part of the training, I'm talking about this training, where we do something around what we call the tell and show. So the tell and show is where you are actually analyzing the data. So it's not going to be theoretical, all right? It's going to be practical and it's going to be hands-on. So Dr. Mike said something earlier on that you're going to create your own, a portfolio for yourself, where you can actually refer anybody to talk about what you have done around data, your analysis, and also your visualization as well. And this can be very, very useful, especially when you're interviewing. Interviewing in this country, as most of people know, is not all about the theory. It's all about what you have done and what you can prove. All right. So that aspect is the tell and show, which is the practical aspect. What also follow as part of what we offer is we help you with your CV review. All right. So we do not just leave you to get trained, do the practical. We spend quality time to help you, to look at the CV, to ensure that it is nice, it is sleek, it is, you dot all the I's and cross the T's, and you are good, it's good enough for you to start to apply for jobs. And guess what? It does not also stop there. All right. We also provide support for our students when they are interviewing, because see, the end destination for most people is not just to go for one, or it's not just to be trained, but you see, you want to be able to show something for it, and what is that thing? A job. All right. So we also support our students, with job interviews as well. All right. Interview preparation. This is where likes of Mike Lakoju and all the data analyst expert that we have on our platform, I will be on the phone to you to prepare you, for that interview. And guess what? It doesn't stop there as well. We have a community of people, all right, which we call our alumni. They've passed through our training. A lot of them, they are doing well in the industries, so they're experts. All right, and we would, add you to this community of people where you could ask, questions. All right, so rather than going to Mr. Google, to ask all the questions, there are people that you can reach out to immediately. So you can imagine you got a job, in IoT and data analytic, and Dr. Mike is your mentor. So it means that, even if you've been given, if you've been asked complex questions at work, you can immediately reach out to this gentleman and he will be there to help you. And listen, everything that I say is what we do. All right. So this is not marketing gimmicks at all. All right. You can hold me by my words. This is exactly what we do, at Smart Learning, this platform, because for us, our service is to humanity. We want to help, we want to support, we've seen a whole lot of clever people out there, that, they don't get the right support. They don't even know, but, as it were, very intelligent people. And those are the people that I think we have, called out to support, so if that is you, please, by all means, let us talk, reach out to us, put your email there, reach out to Benga. Benga, please kindly put out your email out there again, and the telephone number that they can reach you on, the telephone number of the company. Put it out there. We want to talk to you. We want to reach out to you. This video is going to be available, for you to, go over and over and over again. The training is not going to start. The actual training is not going to start. It's going to start in 2 weeks' time. So you see, don't do anything under duress. Don't, this is not another, talk to cajole people into coming into analytics. Take this away. Go research on the internet. The job stats are there. The job statistics are there. Find out more. All right. And once you have done all of that, I will be more than happy. Myself and Dr. Mike will be more than happy to schedule a call with you, to talk more about the possibilities that is there, and see, if that would, would help you. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Are there any other questions? Benga, we also have an infographics that could help you as well. Benga, if you put that infographics into the chat box. Benga, are you there? Benga, are you there? All right. Can you put the infographics? Can you put it in the chat box? Some people might just want to be able to see. Someone said they are data analytics. So we have this nice, good infographics that we've done. You'll be able to see, from where you are, and what the career path looks like, in this data visualization analytic, so we have something. Benga, if you share that now, I don't know, are you sharing it with us? You could put it on the chat box.
I'm having difficulty in uploading it.
All right. So while we're waiting for Benga, do Benga, your background is noisy, please. Your background is noisy, so mute yourself. Chris, do you have any other question? I can see your hands raised as well. Chris, I'll re-answer your question. Chris? All right. Is there any other question in the chat box? Let's see.
No.
There's no other question there.
Okay. No.
All right. Okay. All right. So again, I just want to thank you for your time. It's almost 2 o'clock. We've been here for close to 2 hours. Thank you for everyone that took the time, to attend, the pre-course training. I hope, we've been able to meet your expectations. I hope this has helped you. This recording will be available, just like I said. If you haven't registered, please, by all means, do so. We're going to send an email to you, and we're going to embed the video there. The video is going to be available on our platform anyway, and you can listen to it. If you have any questions, by all means, reach out to us. My telephone number, I'm going to put my telephone number here now. Let me just put my telephone number here. If anybody has got any question and there's anything that you would like us to talk about, I'm going to put my telephone number there. So bear with us. So my telephone number is 078 7714 5576. Oh, 7877. Sorry, I'm trying to even write it out here. I think I might be having some problem. 078 7714 5576. 078 7714 5576. Okay, thank you guys to everyone. 078 7714 5576. All right, we also have landline there if you want to reach out to us, please, by all means. But if you haven't registered, please, do so, and we would reach out to you in the course of the week, and we'll also let you know when the training will start. All right. So again, Dr. Mike, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure, listening to you, and we're hoping to, looking forward to having you for the actual training anytime soon. So thank you. And if there are no other questions, guys, I would like to end the call now, and I will speak to you guys later. All right. Thank you, and bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, 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 bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.